this song since Glastonbury seems to be... Woo! Anyway, have you noticed that suddenly it feels like everyone is quitting alcohol, okay? Like 1 minute your mate is posting from a bottomless brunch, and the next minute everyone is doing ice baths, journaling, and smashing their step count, and you think, what the hell is going on, right? All celebrities seem to be going alcohol-free. LinkedIn founders are all on these clarity missions, right? Every second YouTube video is entitled, "I stopped drinking, here's what happened," right? Even your uncle, who was always Mr. Just One More Pint, is now setting up a Strava account. It feels like a wave, a movement, yeah? But here is the truth about all of this. The whole world is not quitting alcohol. Yes, it might be picking up pace, but all these signs are a fact that you are just waking up to it. Okay, bars are still pretty packed with booze. Yeah, brands are still printing money from the industry, and the stats, although might be trending in the right direction, have not exactly nosedived, right? But something has shifted more than out there. It's in here, okay? I'm going to repeat that. Something has shifted more than out there. It is in here. And once I saw this for myself, it changed everything. And it doesn't just go for alcohol either. If you are new around here, I'm Dave. And over the past year, I've helped dozens of ambitious guys rebuild their confidence, get leaner, remove alcohol, get clearer, get more consistent, and we do all of this using Onto frameworks so they can smash the back doors out of their goals. And we do this without the need of for a one-dimensional PT or a corporate exec coach who's overweight, got high blood pressure, and has been divorced 3 times, right? And in this video, I'm going to explain to you why that shift happens, why once you begin questioning alcohol, it suddenly feels like the whole world is doing exactly the same. Okay, I remember coming back from a stag do in Marbella, classic all-in stag do. Yeah, the default had been pint in hand, shirt off, although I seem to remember breathing in quite a lot to hide the reality at the time that was uncomfortable, and that was the way that my body clearly expressed a lack of self-respect and self-discipline. That's a different video, right? But I was decompressing all of that through getting on it, right? Everyone was drinking. It wasn't forced at all upon us, but at the same time, it didn't feel like a choice, right? It was just the culture. And honestly, for years, I loved it. Absolutely loved getting on it. And it felt like a little bit of my identity was attached to it as well. And then I got back from that stag do on Marbella and I just stopped. I had had enough. And what happened next was wild, because it was like I'd activated some kind of filter in my brain. Suddenly, I was bumping into people who didn't drink. I noticed headlines that I'd normally scroll past. I started getting DMs from guys that I hadn't spoken to in years saying, "Mate, I've been thinking about this too." Even my wife, Amanda, turned to me one night and said, "Have you tried Beck's Blue yet?" Yeah, that was the only option for an alcohol-free beer back then. But let me be real with all of this. The external world hadn't changed one bit. I had. Okay, and that's the key that most people miss. I'm going to repeat that again. The external world hadn't changed one bit. I had, okay? You're noticing it because you've finally opened to it. And neuroscience backs this up. There's a thing in your brain called the Reticular Activating System, and it acts like an internal filter. It starts picking up patterns based on what you believe to be important, okay? Confirmation bias is not a fallacy, it's how your brain works. And what you believe becomes your truth, and that becomes your world, okay? There's an amazing book by a guy called Daniel Kahneman called Thinking Fast and Slow, which breaks down all the psychological heuristics and the power of them. The great thing about it all is it is both empowering and destructive, but you get to choose which one, okay? And when I was drinking, I could sniff the bar or a beer garden from a mile off, no problem. But once I stopped, it was all alcohol-free podcasts. Big up to 1 year, no beer, by the way. Other sober, curious dudes popping up. Stories of clarity around everywhere. It just seemed to be all consuming. It was the same world that I was in, but it was a different operating system on the inside of me. So it was showing up in a different way. And that is part of what we coach inside of Onto. Okay, vision and identity is a massive part of it, yes, but none of that matters without one word: the conviction and belief from within. Because you can have the goals, okay, you can write the vision, but without that emotional buy-in, without the inner belief, you're always going to see the world in a certain way, which means that you're always going to default back to old loops as well. And here is the trap that most guys fall into with all of this. They think that they're alone, and they think that no one else gets it, and that it's safer just to say quietly, I'm going to drink in moderation and pretend that everything's fine. But the fact is that you're not alone. You just may be early to the party, for yourself at least, and you're stuck in a past version of you, the one who believed alcohol gave you something in return. Let me say this out loud, okay? Alcohol gives you nothing. That is a fact. It only gives you something if you believe that it does. I'm going to repeat that, okay? Alcohol gives you nothing. That's a fact. It only gives you something if you believe that it does, okay? And if you're watching this, I would hazard a guess that you're already questioning that belief, okay? Alcohol only takes facts, takes your mornings, it takes your energy, it takes your edge, takes your ability to achieve your potential, assuming that you've got ambition, that is. Maybe you haven't, in which case, crack on, right? And the moment you accept these new beliefs as facts, that is when the shift happens, okay? Onto, we call this a reality filter. When your internal beliefs change, your external experience starts to match it. And suddenly, you're not the only one with an alcohol-free beer at the pub. And you're not feeling awkward anymore with a soda water. You're part of a different movement, one that values energy over everything else. You value being present. You value presence over pretense, right? And you've got total confidence that your actions are now aligned with a healthier inner belief which is serving you. And guess what? You are now firing on all cylinders, yeah? The good news is, if you're noticing this shift, it means that something inside you is already changing, okay? And if you're ready to double down and not just stop drinking, but step into who you could actually be without the booze, that's exactly what we do inside of Onto, okay? We don't use any willpower. We use new belief systems, and you stop running the same old broken program, okay? So if you're watching this and nodding along, if your mates are still smashing the weekend, but something in you just feels done with it all, trust it, yeah? That's your inner voice finally getting louder than all that external noise, yeah? If this hits a nerve, watch my Alcohol-Free Advantage series, where I unpack the top 5 reasons why guys say they like to drink and why it's total horseshit, right? And remember, the world is not changing, you are. And that's exactly how transformation starts. Until then, I'll see you in the next one.